Welcome to Melanin Convos, a sisterhood of mom friends having relatable and unorthodox conversations while holding space for each other and amplifying Black voices. Welcome to Melanin Convos. I'm Nikita, and today we're going to have a fun conversation about flexing your networks, making new friends, and just like shooting your shot with new people. I don't know if you have seen in past couple of weeks, I talked about shooting your shot with friends and just being able to meet new people and not be afraid of the fact that you're new to a place. This episode is very dear and personal to me because moving to a new city, I've had to literally figure out every community network, find new friends, all the things. So it's really from my own personal experience and how I've been able to navigate that and figure out how do I define relationships now that I'm not used to my old patterns, my old community, my old networks, and figuring out how to recreate some of those connections and feelings in a new city. So first thing first, let's talk about and define some things. What are we or how are we defining close, intimate relationships? How are we defining our network and community? For myself, I think close friends or close community are a group of people that I can rely on, who I know intimately, they know me intimately, and they're almost like family. I think when we think and when we talk about community, we talk about that like small group of people. However, I think we can expand that definition a little bit to who are the people that are in my reach. So that can be coworkers, that can be acquaintances, that can be family, friends, people that I go to church with, people that I meet up with at a community group. Like those are also people that are part of your community. So think a little bit more broadly when we think about this. I think that can be helpful and can also solve a problem of feeling isolated and alone when you are in different situations and you are feeling like you don't have anybody in your corner because you're only thinking about the people that know you intimately and are closest to you. But there are other people who may be acquaintances and who you know a little bit more loosely that can be a support to you as well. Okay, let's talk about diversity of community. So I know like diversity is such a buzzword, and a lot of time when we say the word diversity, we're thinking about and talking about race. But I want us to like pivot a little bit when we think about diversity. Think about broadening the scope of people that have influence and who are able to speak into your life and who you are friendly with. Think a little bit more broadly. So when I say diversity of community, I'm talking about people who are acquaintances, people who come from diverse backgrounds, racially, backgrounds when it comes to socioeconomic status, backgrounds that come to like education and age. I think all of those things are necessary in building a wealthy community of people. It isn't any good to us to only be around people who are our same age, race, and come from our same education background and socioeconomic status. I think that it is essential to be able to have people who are in different aspects so that you can learn from them and that they are able to give you different perspectives on life. I personally like strive to have people of different ages in my network. It is absolutely essential and important to me to do that as a person, but also as a mom and a wife. It is important for me to be in a relationship with people who have like adult children, whose kids are much older than mine and who have been married much longer than me so that I can glean from them and that they can share their insights with me, whether it's intentional or subconsciously. I think we are constantly sharing our life and our perspective with people, whether we do it like implicitly or explicitly. And I think for me and for all of us, that is important for us to grow in those various roles that we play and how we will evolve as individuals. So, thinking about that diversity of people, I want us to also think about how we are prioritizing female relationships and to define what we are desiring when we think about friendships, right? So I know, like, for myself, being in my 30s, raising a child, having friends, finding new friends can be very, very difficult for a lot of us that are in this stage because we don't have as much hours to spend on networking with people. Whether you are raising children or you are caring for elderly parents, it's a difficult phase and stage to be in when you're like in this like 30s, early 40s like age range. It's difficult because you're being pulled in all these different directions and we don't have the leisure of luxury free time as we did before, right? So thinking about what is it that I am actually desiring from my friendships. Am I desiring people that I go out with and have a great time? Am I desiring someone who I can go to the gym with and just spend that hour, 2 hours with that individual? Am I desiring like more as a support from people who can come and help me with like household chores or help me with my child? Or am I desiring more intimate relationship with people who know me authentically, who can speak to different aspects of my life and who can help me just be a better, well-rounded individual? So just defining the different things that you are currently looking for, and then being able to acknowledge whether or not you have capacity for that particular thing. I do think that all of those friendship styles that I mentioned are all important. We need all of them. We can't have all intimate friends. We do need to have some acquaintances and some other loose relationships, but being able to say, okay, well, this is what I'm desiring, this is what I have capacity for right now, and how exactly can I go about doing that? So I think I've basically coined myself as being able to shoot my shot with people and I don't know, being able to master this whole networking, making friends since moving. Like, I have been a person that I've always said, I hate networking. I hate networking events. I hate meeting new people. It makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm not really good at it. Like, if you know me for a while, you know that like I don't enjoy those types of encounters and interactions with people because I feel nervous. I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert by nature. So like having to come out of myself to do that work takes a lot out of me and I would just rather not do it at all. So yeah, like I don't enjoy it, but I feel like since moving, I've been able to like really master and hone this skill and I'm really excited about it. And I think what has helped me to be able to do that is being resourceful. I think that's a natural like skill. Like I am naturally bent towards finding resources and finding things out. So I think that has been helpful, being able to find community organizations, find where people are. And I will say like it is difficult to find where people are in Edmonton. Like it's so difficult, but I think I've been able to like just find where people are and be in those spaces, be a part of community organizations and really putting myself out there to meet different people and welcoming the change of environment and the change of community. That's like one thing that I've just been open to that. And I think because I've been open to that, I've been able to welcome those experiences and those people in my life. Okay, so how are we prioritizing female relationships? I think socially, and if you're like on social media, you'll see a lot of conversation about low maintenance friends, high maintenance friends, and just this idea of friends, like your friend being that filler for when you have this romantic partner. And I think that has been a narrative that has been taught and we've adapted for a really long time. And I'm really glad that right now, like been a little bit of a shift of pace when it comes to female relationships and just not having friends that fill single time, but having friends that are part of a sisterhood who are lifelong friends, the people that you journey life with, and allowing them to see you go through different stages of your life and their life, and these people that ride out for you and you're both old and gray in your rocking chair sharing stories. Like, I think that is where we are currently and prioritizing that now. And I love that for us because I feel like a lot of what we've been taught about relationships is very patriarchal. And in the book, Sisterhood Heals by Dr. Joy, if you're not familiar with her, she has a podcast called Therapy for Black Girls. And she recently wrote that book, Sisterhood Heals. And basically, she talks about the different relationships that Black women in particular have as it relates to sisterhood and friendships and the different ways that we move throughout our relationships. And she has a chapter on this particular topic about how we have friends that just fill time and just fill a space until we find a romantic relationship. And I think we all can attest to having a relationship or an experience where either it was us or someone else that once they met a boyfriend, once they met a partner, they switched up. Like, you don't hear from them, you don't see them, they don't talk to you, they're not available anymore. And granted, absolutely, when you are meeting someone new, when you're investing time to get to know someone, obviously you're going to be spending a lot more of your social time with that individual. 100%. Like, don't get me wrong. That's to be expected. However, I think a lot of us can attest to the fact that some of our friends said, I'm no longer your friend. I'm not going to show up in the same way I did because now I have a man. And I think that that has a lot to do with, obviously, of course, patriarchy and just the fact that as women, historically, needing to be kept or needing to be attached to a man for our safety and security is a lot of the ways that we still mobilize now, even though we are so far removed. Or are we? Are we far removed? I don't know, but I think it's safe to say that we are very much far removed from that type of social economic statuses of women and those experiences where we are able to make our own money, we're able to get our own education, have our own home, own land, we're able to do a lot more. However, I think like mentally and in our minds and how we feel that we fit in the world, we still kind of, I don't know, like revert back to that type of historical way of being as it pertains to women. So I think that is like where a lot of that comes from. We will prioritize that romantic relationship over our friendships. And it's funny because in a lot of cases, those friend relationships outlive and outlast some of the romantic relationships. So it's like, why wouldn't you pour your time and prioritize the relationship that will last and being in good standing with someone that has seen you change and evolve and was still accepting and was still loving and welcoming and still showed up for you throughout the various stages of your life. And yeah, I just wonder like why we keep doing that. Although I know that the root is in patriarchy. Why do we continue to do that? And I'm glad that, like I mentioned, that the tide is changing. I'm seeing a lot more emphasis on prioritizing your female friends, having a network and a community of friends and a sisterhood of friends that are just right out for you. And I think that's great. And I'm glad that we are changing the narrative and we are doing something different. However, I still do think that it is necessary for us to talk about like prioritizing that. What does it mean to be a good friend? What does it mean for me to have good friends? What type of friend am I? Am I a planner? Am I the peacemaker? Am I the firecracker? Like, where do I fit in friend groups or even the relations I have with one other individual? And how exactly do I want to maintain this relationship? I think something that I hear a lot is about organic relationships. And I talked about this in like another episode, and I don't know why, but that like drives me insane. The idea of like, oh, I don't do relationship unless they're organic. And it's just like, okay, let's just really sit back for a moment and think about how much organic time do we really have with people? Like, we are building our businesses, we are building our careers, we're raising children, taking care of aging parents. Really and truly, how much time do we really have to for organic relationship. I think when we say that, to me, it's like a cop out for not being intentional and not putting in the time. Research tells us in order to move someone from an acquaintance to a close friend, we need to clock about 140 hours with that person. How do we clock 140 hours organically with someone that we don't see every day? Like, we're not in school anymore where we see the same people every single day so that we are able to build that closeness with that individual. I think that we have to be a little bit more intentional about how we meet people, the conversation that we're having with individuals, so that we're able to clock those hours so that we move from acquaintance to a close friend. Now, I'm not saying that you need to force relationships. Like, if someone doesn't have capacity to be your close friend, they don't have capacity. And there's no need to like force them to be your friend. And when I mean force, I mean like oversharing prematurely. Like always like running people down or like begging them to spend time with you, or when you realize that you and someone like don't have common interests and you don't really have anything in common, but you keep like beating a dead horse and keep trying to build this relationship and it's just not meshing, like that would be forced. And I'm not saying to go ahead and keep doing those things, but what I am saying is for us to really reflect on what we are saying is organic and how we are defining that and how we are moving throughout our networks with that definition in mind. I think that's what we need to really consider, because we're not gonna just spend that quality time with people organically by being in their space. We're gonna have to create those environments for ourselves if we are truly desiring to create intimate relationships or even like looser relationship. We're gonna have to create that time. And that means that we're gonna have to be a lot more intentional. Whether that means we are planning dates with people, we're inviting people into our home to spend time with us and see how we live and how we interact with our spouses and our children. If we are joining a book club, joining a small group, putting ourselves out there, and just being willing to explore like different people and different people groups. Now, like a few weeks ago, I had posted about how we can do that and different ways of flexing your networks and just meeting new people. So because I am new to a city, I think I have the luxury of doing all of the things that I mentioned. So being like tourist in your own city. Whether or not you think your city is a tourist attraction or not, think about what are the things that a newcomer would do if they move to where you live. So I don't know if you know this, but every city has like newcomer social supports, right? So think about that. What are things that people would do when they come to live here for the very first time? Whether that's support groups, whether that's community organizations, whether that's like festivals that are ethnic. Think about those things and go to them. Visit those things, visit those support groups, be immersed in the culture of your city, right? So I think that would be the first thing I would say, like be a tourist in your own city, venture out. The other thing is, or number two would be, don't be afraid to ask first. Now, I know this is like maybe like a very hot topic. I might be pushing some buttons here. I don't know. I know that reciprocity in friendship is a big thing, and I'm not negating that. Like, it absolutely is. Feeling like your efforts are being reciprocated and that people are also interested in reaching out to you is a huge thing. And if I'm being honest, like, it's a huge thing for me in relationship, like feeling like people are being reciprocal with me, that when I ask them to do things that they also ask me, and when I reach out that they also reach out, like that is a big thing for me as well. And it's been a huge insecurity, feeling like people aren't reciprocal with me in the ways that I am reciprocal with them. Well, maybe not even the ways, but I don't feel like people tend to offer reciprocity to me as well. So what I mean by that is if I'm asking you, like checking in, I don't feel like some individuals check in with the same frequency that I do, or being the first to ask. I feel like I'm always the first to ask. And I know always is a very big statement, but that's just how I feel sometimes. Like I'm always the first to ask. And I think that lends to the fact that I'm a planner. So being okay with the fact that I take initiative more than other people because I'm just a planner and learning to be okay with that. But my point is being the first to ask. Don't be afraid to be the first to ask. And I know it's hard to do that, and you may feel scared because you don't want to feel rejected. But I promise you, majority of the time, people actually are waiting for you to ask. People are waiting for you to say yes to them, and or waiting to say yes to you rather. And a lot of the time, people are really willing to do whatever it is you're asking them to do and are interested in wanting to build something with you. And I think we get in our own heads, we get in our own way when it comes to that because of fear of rejection, which is completely valid. Being rejected by people really hurts, but I want us to try to be the first to ask because we are desiring to build that community, to build those relationships. So we're going to have to put ourselves out there and make that first step in order to get the things that we want. We're not going to have these relationships just because we wish them into existence. We're going to need to put ourselves out there and be the first to do it and see how the relationship goes. I'm not saying be the first to ask all the time, but as you are building something, be the first to ask. So my example of this, and I was like really excited, and my husband said something to me that I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm like trying to like change my career, and I had a conversation with my employer's diversity and equity department. And I met this individual, this woman, Black woman, so kind, so nice. She gave me so many resources. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I should reach out to her and ask her to be my mentor. And I will say, the times in the past when I've done this, where I've asked people to be my mentor, I've been burned. Whether they said yes and they didn't fulfill the obligation, or they just dropped the ball. Like, so this was a big deal for me to like ask her to do this. But I'm like, you know what? What do I have to lose? And I really want this. So let me just, put my brave face on and just send this email asking her to be my mentor and see what happens. If she says no, then she says no. There's other people that I can ask. And you know what? I'm just going to have to like sit with this, like bandage up my little wounded heart, and then just keep moving forward. There could be a variety of reasons why people say no that have nothing to do with you at all, and just not taking it personally. And yeah, I asked her, and I was surprised that she said yes. And my husband was like, are you surprised that someone said yes to you? And I was like, you know what? I don't need you to therapist me today. But it's true. Like, I was surprised that someone said yes to me. And I think that may be the story for a lot of us. We get surprised when people say yes to us because we feel like people don't typically say yes to us and maybe we're not deserving of that yes or whatever the reason is. But I want to challenge you to put yourself out there and ask, because I promise you, most people are waiting for you to even ask them. As annoying as it is, because trust me, I know it is annoying. And like, it takes a lot of mental load to even like set up a conversation like that. So I get it, but people are willing to say yes to you. And just acknowledging that you have a lot to offer the relationship too. Even though you are asking someone to come into your space, you have so much to offer the relationship. It's not just you needing something from them, but you have something to offer. You are smart, you have resources, you have things that that person may need as well. And they are likely acknowledging that. I think when I asked my mentor to be my mentor, she also acknowledged that there were things that I have that would be useful to her. She's a much older woman, and that's part of the reason why I asked her. And I think she also acknowledged that like I have a skill set and a life perspective that I can offer to her as well, so that the relationship is beneficial for both parties. So be the first to ask. Be willing to ask first. My next point would be where people are. I know I talked about this a little previously when I mentioned about like being a tourist, but I want you to think about being where people are in the sense of what interests you have. So like if you like reading, join a small group. If you enjoy dance, go to a dance class. If you play an instrument, maybe teach lessons or go somewhere where you can learn. If you are a mom, join a mom group. Like there are a lot of churches and even public organizations that have like mommy and me classes that happen in the daytime. Go to those events and those classes where you can meet other moms who are in the same stage of life as you are in, and you can have conversation with people and just meet different people. It's a perfect way of meeting diverse people. So try to frame your mind around being where people are and not just staying home and isolating yourself from people, or only going to the places where people are like you, right? So if you have like a community group or a church or whatever community or network that you have where it's all the same age of people, race of people, socioeconomic status of people, try going to other places where it's still of interest, but you know that there'll be different people attending that event or that small group or that club. Try going different places so that you can meet different people and that you can really like just beef up your networks. And I think being able to do that, you'll surprise yourself about how well you actually can network and how well you are willing to be open to meeting new people. Those three things I think are skills and tools that I've used since moving to Edmonton. And I think they've been beneficial to me. I've been able to meet a lot of phenomenal people who are either in the same life stage as me or who are ahead of me and or of different culture. I think right now it's so interesting coming from Toronto where there's a vast majority of West Indian people. And because I'm West Indian, my parents are West Indian, we've always just stuck with the same kinds of people. And now living in Edmonton where the Black population is more like African, I'm able to learn things about being West Indian and about African culture that like, or different African cultures that I didn't know before. And for me, like it's all learning. All of it is learning and all of it is necessary for me. So I think that is the beauty of that, because I wouldn't have been able to have that access when I was in my hometown unless I actually like looked for it, right? So just being around people that are different, although all Black, allows me to learn something new about a culture, about people, which I think is essential and amazing. And I think that has helped me just to help with my identity as a Black individual, but also helped me to understand other aspects of different people's cultures and their way of life and how they do things. So I think that is helpful, but also something to acknowledge as you pursue meeting new people, as you pursue being in different spaces with people who do not look like you. So our takeaway today and what I want to leave with you, what I hope that you will do after watching this episode, is thinking about how you want to engage with people and looking for one new event, group, person, whatever it is, to interact with and engage with as you go throughout the next week and month. Like, I know it can be difficult to put yourself out there like that, but maybe we just start really, really small. Start by just looking for a community organization. Start by just looking for an event, looking for the things that you're interested in, making a list of those things. And then maybe next month we actually go to something. I don't know, right? Start there. Start really, really small. And I also want us to think about why we feel like people won't say yes to us. What are we afraid of? What do we think that people are seeing? Or why do we think that people won't say yes to you? And why are we surprised when people do? Yeah, those two things. What are we afraid of? And why we think people won't say yes to us. Yeah, so see you later. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Melanin Convos. Melanin Convos is directed and produced by Nikita Buckner, editing, audio, and video production by Tamwa Ladajo. If you'd like to support Melanin Convos, share this episode with a friend or visit our website in the show notes. We are amplifying Black voices and creating a sisterhood of mom friends.